Hey guys, what's up? So let's build a real-time online multiplayer game using Construct 3. So this is my game page I created on itch.io. So let's look at the game. So we have two screens here. Let's see how it works, and then I'll explain you what what are we going to do, and we can slowly develop the game, and you will see how to make this game. Okay, so I'll write the name. Okay, so you can see there are two players here. So just need to click on the screen. If you click on the screen, you can see in both the screens how the sync is going on, and with the same with the next second player. So just need to click on the screen and you can see the power but also getting depleted, right? So they both fight. It's a complete real-time online multiplayer game. So once the other player is destroyed, it goes back to the main screen. So we can add other screens as well, like game over screen and etc. But this let's keep it very simple and let's build very basic game for now. It's not actually basic game. There are a lot of things going in the background, but let's stick to building a real-time multiplayer game. So adding music, game over screen, submitting score to server, again all those things are again a topic for another video. Alright, so let's get started. I'll close these two windows. Okay, so this is the page. So I'm going to use Construct 3 game engine. Okay, let's launch the game engine. Alright, so I'll create a new project. Okay, first let's name it. I'll name it as multi-fight. Okay, so viewport 480. Height, let's have it as 270. Okay, let's create it. Alright, let's close the start. So this is the project. So you can see all the project settings on the left hand side and all the project files on the right hand side. You can also see the layers at the bottom. So instead of explaining each and every item for you, let's start building the game, and slowly you will understand each and every item as part of the game development. Okay, so this is the project. So if I click on multi-fight, this is the viewport size, right? So this is the layout. Layout 1 is the first layout. So by default you will get a double size of what we have created. So let's stick to the viewport size and I will change the size to 480 270. Okay, let's name the layout as game, and each layout has its own event sheet. So this event sheet, we should be linking the event sheet to the game layout. Okay, there is a drop down. So event sheet is linked by default. So I will call it as es_game. Okay, so the reason I named it as es is to know the event sheet, which is es stands for event sheet. So it's up to you how do you want to name it. But if you can see, there are two pages here at the center, so it will be easy for us to recognize when we try to build. We want to switch between the pages. Okay, so right, so this is done. The initial page, the project is done. So let's start importing all the images. So first we need a background. So for that I am going to create a tile background. Let's type tile background. Okay, so in objects you can see, one second, what happened. Okay, so in object types you can see the tile background is added here. So all the objects we add will be added under the tile objects, and all the layouts will be under layouts, and all the event sheets will be under the event sheet folders. So rest families, sounds, music, videos, you can understand by name of the folders. So you can also replace the icons. So these are the default icons given by the game engine. So you just need to replace these icons with the pixel, the size of the icon given here. So 64, fight wall. So you just need to replace the icon with those sizes. Alright, so first let's rename the tile background as BG. So double click on it, you will get the editor. So click on the folder and let's import the files. I think this is the one. Yeah, let's import this one. Okay, so the width of the size of the object is very huge, so I want to reduce the size of it. So let's have the height of only maybe 300. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Okay, this is fine. Let's place it here. Done. Okay, so layer, let's rename it to BG and let's lock it. So if you lock it, it doesn't move. When you try to move other objects, it doesn't move accidentally. So let's create a new layer. Let's call it as players. Okay, here we'll be adding our characters or players. So one on left and one on the right. Let's insert new object called sprite. Okay, so I have few animations for the heroes. So you can see attack. I'm not sure whether it is visible to you, but on the right hand side there are few frames into one image. So we call it as animation strip. So let's import all of them. So if I right click on here, you will see an option to import strip. Okay, let's click on strip, and so let's import the first one, attack 1. Okay, so there are 6 frames. So construct automatically picks up how many horizontal frames we have. So it picked up as 6. If you want to change that, if it incorrectly detected the number, you can always change the number before importing. So let's replace the animation. So whatever we have here will be replaced with this one. Okay, you can see the animation, right? So let's rename the animation to attack. Okay, so before so we have an option to preview it, so you can see it, right? So let's increase the speed to 10 and see how it looks like. Okay, I think this would be sufficient. let's import other frames as well. So before that, let's create animation. Let's rename it to idle. So we're going to import frames for idle. So you can see idle here. Let's import that, and it has 8 horizontal cells. Okay, so again let's look at the preview. Okay, this is much slow, so let's say the speed to 10 and let's loop it. We want the idle state to be looping. Okay, good. So similarly, let's add other animations. Let's call it as death. Add the strip. Where is death? Right. Also, we can add one more animation to take it. So first, let's import death. Preview. Again, let's put the speed at 10. Let's look at preview again. Okay, good. I'm adding one more animation for take it. So I'll name it as take hit. Okay, so let's keep the speed at 10, preview it. Okay, done. Everything is looking good. Let's have the size as 250 and 250. Okay, so let's have him here. Let's save it. Okay, I will call it as demo. Okay, let's save it. Done. So let's see how it looks like if I preview it. Okay, so the background is good, the player is also good, but you can see the animation attack is being played and he is stuck here. So let's fix that first, and then we can import the next character. So you can right click or you can click on add event. So click on the sprite. So 1 minute. Before that, let's rename it to, let's call him as player 1. Okay, so at the beginning of the layout, we need to play the idle animation instead of attack animation. Okay, so the first animation for the player is attack. So it's in alphabetical order, I guess. Okay, so first type for start of layout and click on action. Player 1 should be set animation, should be playing idle. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now it's good, right? It's in the idle state. So now what I want to do, so So just want to test the character movements. So if I click on the screen, he has to attack and also move one step ahead. Okay, so for that I want to implement a touch object, so that when I touch on the screen, so it works on both sides. So it will work for mouse click as well as touch screen. So let's implement the touch. So in objects, let's right click, add a new object called touch. Okay, now add one more event. So touch on tap gesture, player should be playing animation of attack. Okay, let's see how it looks like. So if I click on the screen, he has to play the animation attack. So far it's good, right? And he has to go back to idle state. So let's implement that. So we have an event to check the animation if finished. Okay, so if I go to the player, you can see on finished. So animation attack, if it is finished, so let's simply copy paste here. Oh, not this one. Player set animation to idle. Okay, on tab gesture we want the player to move a step ahead. So let's go to player and set X. So we want the position to be self of X plus let's give it 20. So which means that the player moves in the X axis 20 pixels from the current position. Okay, let's see how it looks like now. Okay, good, right? So if I click on screen, he is coming one step ahead and attacking. It looks like the attack is very slow. So let's increase the animation speed of the attack. So instead of 10, let's give it 15. Okay, let's see it now. I click on screen. Right, I click on the screen, so it is much faster. So if you think the animation speed has to be more faster, you can always increase the speed of the animation. Okay, this is good. All right. So I want to import the second player as well now. So let's go to new insert new object. So if I right click on the screen, you will get the drop down, and I click on create new object. So in create new object, I will go to sprite. Okay, so same thing, we will have to import other items as well. Okay, I'll right click, import from strip, go back to the folder and let's import the second hero. First let's import attack. Okay, let's rename the animation to attack. Speed by default, let's put it as 15. Preview. Okay, this is good. So you can see he is placed towards right. We want him to be on the left hand side, so we have an option to mirror it. So if I click on this object, it will mirror, right? So you can see he was looking at right hand side, now he is at left hand side. Same thing let's do with the other images. Okay, now let's preview. Right, done. Let's quickly import the other animations. So let's import idle state. So this is idle. Let's put the speed to 10 and let's loop it, and let's mirror everything, all the frames. Okay, so this is idle. Create new animation. Let's import death. Let's put the speed at 10. Rename the animation to death. Okay, let's preview it. Great. So let's import the last one. Take it. Okay, speed should be 10 and let's mirror all the frames. Okay, done. Okay, it's ready now. So this is 250. Let's also put the size of him at 250. I'm just placing them in proper orders. Okay, done. So now the players are at place. Now we need to start working on the controls and also the multiplayer setup. So let's log the players for now. So in construct we have a multiplayer object which helps us to link peers and work on the same or play on the same environment. So generally a game needs a server. For any online game you require a server, right? So these servers will link the players and they can play in the common arena. So in construct actually it has a cost effective method of linking the players. So we don't need a server actually. So construct has its own signaling server, but we don't need to maintain any server to run the game. So how it works is the first player who joins the game will be the server, and the other players who joins the game will act as peers. Okay, the first one is known as the first one to join the game will be known as host. That player will be hosting the game and controls all the player movements, right? So if you understand this concept, it's very easy to implement the multiplayer using construct. So it uses the same technology which we use for video calls, right? So it uses RTC, which is used for the video calls communication. So you just need a signaling server, but we don't need it because construct is giving it as for free. So it's very cost effective. But if you want to have your own server, have the players, everyone wants to play, to log on to your server, that can also be done, but this is very cost effective. But if you want to have a server based game, let me know, we can make another video. But for the in this video we are going to use the constructs multiplayer feature. Okay, so let's start. Let's forgot to rename this one to player 2. Okay, done. Okay, so let's import the multiplayer object. So now let's start integrating the multiplayer and start linking the players. Okay, so first we need to do what we need to do is we need to connect to the signaling server. Okay, this one, sometimes I keep on forgetting. Okay, so first we need to connect to the signaling server. So by default you will get it as multiplayer.scirra.com. If you have your own signaling server, you can simply replace that, replace the default Scirra.com with your own signaling server. Okay, then we'll have to we'll have to sync the players. So we have an option called sync object. So here you will choose player 1. Data, we need the position. If you want the angle as well, you can also set up the angle, but for this one position is sufficient. And precision, let's keep it as low. Okay, so we don't want it doesn't have much of player movements, right? With just one click he moves forward and attacks, that's all. It's very simple one, so let's keep the precision low. Okay, also you'll have to sync the player before connecting to the signaling server. So let's do the same with the second one. Click on action, go to multiplayer, sync object, and object is player 2. Same, we need the position to be synced and precision to be normal, to be low. Okay, done. So now once we connect to the signaling server, we'll have to log in. So each pair has their own pair ID. So that will be decided by the signaling server, that's automated. And you can also give a name, an alias name to the player. So if you want to, if I join a room, I can join with an alias name Sudeep. So if you want to join with your name, you can also join with your name, right? So alias name is mandatory. Otherwise, we do not know which player is playing, right? So everyone should have their own alias or username. Okay, so let's add an event sheet, event, and we'll go to multiplayer. So once we are connected to signaling server, I want to log in. We have an option, yeah. So for now I'll log in as Sudeep, so we can change that later. Also let's add a console. I want to log if I log in. So on signaling server connected, so I want to check if I connected to the signaling server. So we have to log it, console.log. So connected to the server. Okay, so once I log in, where is it? Yeah, on logged in, I want to join the room. Okay, so room, you can give it a name, or you can also give it default name, so that every player, when they joins a room, and if the room is full, the signaling server creates one more room with the same name, but adds 1, 2 at the end. So for example, if I create a name, room name of Shepherd Games, so if the room is full, a room name called Shepherd Games 1 will be created, so that the next players will be joining the next room, and the first player who joins the room will be the host of the room. Okay, so first let's give the game name. I'll call it as SG. SG stands for Shepherd Games, and game name is Multifight. Instance default, I'll leave it as default. So room name, I'll call it as Multifight. Max players 2. I want only 2 people to be joining a single room. Okay, so this is done. Let's again console it. Log it. So I'll call it as logged in. Okay, so now let's see if I join the room. So once we have an option here on join room, right? This one. Okay, so once you join the room, you will be joining either as host or peer. Okay, so I want to check if I joined as host. So if I do sub event, so go to multiplayer, and you have an option to see host. Okay, I will console again, I will log it. So I'll call it as join as host. Just simply copy paste, and if I want to check if I joined as peer, you just need to click on right click on the is host event and click on invert. Okay, joined as peer. Okay, simply I can click on preview, but I want to test 2 players at the same time. So we have a option called remote preview. So let's click on remote preview. You'll get a remote preview with a link. So let's copy it. One second. One second, what is happening? Remote project updated. Let me refresh it. Let's open the project. Where is it? Okay, fine. Remote preview. Copy it. Minimize it. So let's create a new tab. Okay, let's keep it here. Okay, let's create one more tab. Okay, fine. All right, so okay, now the screen setting is done. So if I click on the host, so the left one is host because the left one is the first to join the room. Okay, so if I click on the screen, you can see the player is moving on the right hand side. So there is one duplicate, we'll get rid of that later, and we need to fix the peer as well. You can see he is in the attack mode. It's the same issue we had with the first player when we created the object, right? Okay, so let's fix that, but before that let's see how did it log in. So if I click on console, one second. So if I go to console, you can see the logs here: connected to the server, logged in, joined as peer. So this guy on the right is peer, and if I check the console for this, the left guy, you can see connected to the server, logged in as host, right? This is good. So the initial connection is done. Okay, so let's start coding the game now. So once you joined as room, right, so once you joined as the host, first we need to set up the multiplayer, and you need to associate object with peer. Okay, associate object with peer. You need to link player 1 to multiplayer dot my id. Okay, so like I said, each peer has their own IDs, so we'll have to link the first player to multiplayer dot my id. So my id in the sense, so once the host opens, joins the room, only this function will be triggering for them. The next one will not be triggered because they are not peer, they are host. Similarly, for the peer, the second event will be triggered, not the first one. Okay, so you can call multiplayer dot my id, or you can, there is also one more option called multiplayer dot host id. Okay, and also I want to destroy player 2. The reason is we don't want player 2 as of now, because the player 2 did not join the room, right? So once they join the room, we'll create a new player and associate the player 2 with the multiplayer dot peer id. Okay, that way we can sync their both positions. All right. So once you join as peer, so I want to destroy both player 1 and player 2. The reason is to remove the duplicates. Okay, destroy player 1 and also destroy player 2. Okay, now let's start coding the events for host and peers separately. Okay, so let's click on new event. So if the player is host, so we need to declare the events for host as well as peer separately, because we do not have any common events as of now. But for common events, something like decreasing the health or something are very common, but rest like moving the players and everything and hitting the players is very unique for each player. And also, like I said before, host has to operate all the peer actions as well. So when you click on the screen, peer sends a signal to host saying that user has clicked on the screen, let play the attack animation, something like that. So the host plays the attack animation for peer and moves one step ahead, right? So it might be confusing as of now when I try to explain to you, but let's see how it works. So once you look at the game, how things are done, it's very easy for you to build your own games. Okay, so first we sync the player 1, player 2 and connect it to the signaling server. Then once you connect it to the signaling server, you log in with alias. We'll change this later, we'll link it to home screen text object later, but for now I gave the alias as Sudeep. And if you have the same names, it will create Sudeep 1, Sudeep 2 for the rest of the peers. Okay, once you logged in, we'll have to join the room. I gave few random name, not randomness, I gave the game name as SG multifight and room as multifight. And once you join the room, you will either join as host or you'll join the room as peer. So once you join the room as host, host is the one who controls all the movements of the players, and they act as the server for the game or for that particular room. Okay, so once you log in as host, you'll have to associate the player 1 with the multiplayer dot myid. Here myid is nothing but host, and you will delete the second player. And once you log in as peer, so we'll destroy both of the objects, I mean player 1 and player 2. Okay, now let's start adding events for host. So this section will be only for host, right? So the first one is, so we'll wait for the peer to join. So once the peer is joined, on peer connected, okay, we will create an object player 2. So create it, I'm sorry, not here, it will be in the system. Okay, create object player 2. Okay, in the layer players. So let's look at the coordinates. Okay, the coordinates are 400, 200. So x-axis is 400 and y-axis is 200. Okay, done. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to associate player 2 with peer id. So player 2 with multiplayer dot peer id. Okay. So similarly we will have to do for peer. So these are the events for peer. So this will be invert. So in peer, what will say that we will go to peer and say on created. Okay. So here host will create a player for the peer. I hope it's not confusing. So host will as soon as peer joins the room, host will create the player for the peer. Okay, once and associate the player to the multiplayer dot peer id, and in the peer we'll see that if player 2 is created, same thing we'll have to associate object which is player 2 with the multiplayer dot, let's say, my id. We can also call peer id, but it is better to say my id, because in future maybe if you want to set up players with more than 2, instead of calling peer id, it's you'll have to use the index as well, array index, to specify which player. So it is always better to associate with my id for all the peers. Okay, right, and also these two objects should be under host, because these are belonging to the player. Okay, so let's see how it works. So let's refresh these two. So the first one to join the room will be host, the second one to join the room will be the peer. I like this feature very much. This is provided by Construct. You can simply give the link to people and ask them to test it. Okay, so right, so forget about the frames, we'll fix them later. So now you can see there is no duplication. So if I click on the host, it is moving but the animation is not playing. We'll fix that. If I click on peer, we did not give any actions for peer, so it doesn't work, but at least the host is working fine, right? Okay, right. So we'll have to fix the animation first. So same thing, once player 2 is created, we'll set the animation of player 2 idle. Also same thing, we'll have to test for player 1. So I'll just copy paste. If I right click, you will have an option to replace object, replace with player 1, and delete this one. Okay. Okay, so let's refresh the server and see how it works. I used to work for a client in US. I used to give him the remote link, and whenever I used to make changes, I just used to send him the link and he used to test the game, and it was very convenient. We don't need to wait for days to give him the build. Alright, anyways, okay, so the animation is fixed. We need to fix this one animation. and also in the next one we'll also set up the tap of function for the peer as well. But let's go step by step, because this is a multiplayer setup. Things could be few things could be confusing, so let's go very slow, so that the next video we can make it much faster. Okay, so once you create the player 2, let's set the animation to idle. Okay, done. This is done. Okay, so when you tap on the host side, it moves to the animation attack, right? So I want the player 2 to know the same and play the animation attack. So we have an option, we have a action called broadcast message. So if you are sending a message from host, it should be broadcast, and if you are sending message from peer, it should be send message. Okay, sometimes I get confused with both of them. All right, so we'll send a message from host to peer saying, hey, I clicked on the screen, play the animation attack. Okay, similarly, when we click on the screen on the peer side, we'll send a message to host saying that I have clicked on the screen, play the attack animation. Okay, so let's start with the host. We'll broadcast the message from, so leave it blank for host, you don't need to add anything, and tag will be animation. Okay, the message will be attack. Okay, done. So now on the peer side, we'll need to receive the message. Once we will receive the message, but once we receive the message, what we have to do, that we need to add the event. So we'll go to multiplayer on peer message. So the tag is animation. Okay, and the player animation should be multiplayer dot message. So I gave the message as attack as capital small a, whereas in the animation the letter is capital A, but I'm not sure whether it works or not, if that is case sensitive or not, but let's see. If it doesn't work, then we can make it capital A. Okay, almost done. Wait, right. Okay, you can see the player 2 animation is idle, right? So if I click on, you see that we just need to fix the second frame. We haven't added any events to peer, so it doesn't work. Okay, so we just need to change this one and add the controls for the peer as well. So we can simply move this to this one is the on animation attack finished, so this we can make it as a common event. Okay, so once the attack animation is over, the player 1 will move to the idle animation. So this should be common for both host and peer, right? So similarly, let's do the same for peer as well. So simply copy this one. Okay, so let's right click, replace object, replace it with player 2. So set animation to attack, and it should be minus 20 because he moves to the left hand side, and instead of broadcast message it will be send message. Done. And the same peer animation. So once the peer animation received, let's replace the object with player 2. Alright, so it's the same thing, same events, you just need to replace the objects. So in my view, developing multiplayer games are very easy. The construct has made very easy on implementing multiplayers. When I speak to other developers, they see that I develop a lot of multiplayer games and they ask the same question, it's very difficult, I don't understand how to build multiplayer games. But it's just the concept we need to understand, but rest all is very easy. I worked on other game engines as well, but construct has made multiplayers very easy. Alright, so I hope you're able to follow everything, and if you have any questions you can always comment or reach out to me on my Discord server. I will provide the links in the description. Okay, so we'll have to do the same for the player 2. Once the animation attack is finished, we'll set the player 2 animation to idle. Okay, let's refresh the server, refresh the page, refresh the second page. Okay, right, you see that when I click on the host screen, he is moving 20 steps ahead and doing the animation, attack animation, and going back to the idle state. Let's check for peer. Peer is playing the animation fine, but he is not moving forward. Okay, the reason is the position of player 2 is being controlled by host. So now what we have to do, we'll have to send a message to host that I have clicked on the screen, okay, and move me 20 steps towards left. Okay, that we need to say to the host. Okay, where is peer 2? Yeah, this is peer. I am saying peer 2. Okay, when I click on, okay, on tap gesture, set the position to minus 20. Okay, so simply let's do one thing. On peer message animation, we are already sending a message. What I will do is I will move this to here. Okay, player 2 set x to self x minus 20. So this should work now. Let's refresh the server and refresh the first page, refresh the second page. Okay, just loading will take some time, but anyways I think it's worth waiting. By this time you should be able to know that multiplayer games are very easy to develop. It's just that we need to be patient and do multiple testing. So in normal game, testing is quite easier compared to multiplayer games. Okay, let's see now. I click on host. Okay, working fine. Click on peer. You see that he is moving to left. Let them fight. He is moving through him. Okay, we need to add few more objects, but till here I hope you are with me, and till here it's simple, right? So what I want to do is I want the two players to be known as solid. They are solid substances, not just not ordinary. and also I want to give a platform behavior just in case they go up, like when someone hits, one player hits the other player. I don't want they go out of their positions, right? So for that I want to give a platform behavior so that they will be standing, even that they go up, they just fall to the bottom. Alright, so for that let's create a new sprite. So we'll create a floor. Okay, I want, anyways I will make the floor as transparent, but for our visibility I created it as green. Okay, this one let's rename it to floor. Let's call it as floor. Okay, floor is reserved. Okay, fine. Let's call it as platform, and let's add a behavior as solid. So for platform behaviors you need to make the platform or the floor as solid, otherwise the characters will pass through them. And for each player let's add the behavior as platformer. Okay, so we'll add the platform behavior. Do the same for the next one. Okay, so we don't want any of the features of platform except for gravity and fall speed. So let's make everything as 0. We don't need jump as well. Default controls in the sense the arrow controls, we don't need them either. Okay, we don't need any of this. Done. Okay, let's refresh the server. The reason it takes time is it works as the multiplayer game as well. The preview mode, I mean the remote preview mode, it goes to the signaling server and transfers the files between the browsers. We'll remove this green platform, don't worry about it. So he is over the green platform because his collision points are here till here at his knees. We need to change that, but we'll work on them after this testing. But the player 1 is exactly on the platform. It's still passing through the, okay, I think I know the issue. Player 1 will have to make it solid. Same thing with player 2. Let's make him solid as well. And also let's change the collisions of player 2. So we need to put it at his feet instead of his knees. Okay, I'm just putting it at random position. I'm not trying to align it properly. So when you build the game, you can make sure you align it properly. just to save time I am not checking the alignment. Okay, so food. Okay, let's do the same for the other animations. When you add the object, these collision points are created automatically. So most of the time it will be aligned properly, but sometimes it's very difficult to difficult for construct to detect the collision points, but still it does the good job in identifying the collision points. What happened? Okay, let's quickly complete for the last animation. Done. I think it should be 180 now, maybe 190. Okay, fine. Again here we need to change it to 190. Now as we added the solid behavior for both of the objects, they should not pass through each other. Okay, right, cool, right? Now it is placed properly, and let's go forward. Host is working fine. Let's look at peer. You see that when a host hits peer, he doesn't move, but when peer hits host, he is moving back, maybe because of the animation, the collision points or something, but that's fine. When I hit when host hits peer, he should move 20 steps back. So let's add that, and also we can add take hit animation as well to look much realistic. Okay, till here it's fine. Let's also remove the make the floor invisible. Okay, let's go back to game layout. This should be initially visible. Let's remove that, and I'll create one more layer called platform. Let's move platform to platform layer. Okay, and also let's pull the platform bottom of players, because players should be, anyways it's not visible but it doesn't matter, but you know, just to keep consistency when we work on a lot of games, you know, we'll maintain some consistency. So platform should always be below the players. Okay, so this is done. What we have to do now, yeah, we need to move 20 steps behind when we hit when host hits the peer. Okay, so you can simply add it to the host events, because we host host is the one who controls the peer, right? So one let's add a sub event, player collision on collision with another object which is player 2. Player 2, simply let's copy this one, should move 10 steps behind, 20 steps behind. Okay, this is done. Also when I hit the player 2, he has to play take hit animation, right? I think it is better we move this to host the common events, because even though it is a common event, peer cannot move it, right? So it is better we move it to the common event, because we can add one more animation which is set player 2 to animation which is take hit. Okay, again we'll need to use the same event as the common event, because when in both host and peer, player 1 hits player 2 and we'll need to play the take hit animation, right? So that is why. So it is better to have it as common event. And anyways the peer cannot move his player, host moves his player. So even though we place set x now the position of player 2, it will be overwritten by host. So we have to do the same with player 2. Let's replace player 1 with player 2, and here it should be player 1, and these two should be player 1. Okay, player 2 on collision with player 1, player 1 will move 20 steps behind and plays take hit animation. Let's see now. Okay, host is ready, peer is ready. Okay, he is hitting the peer is hitting host and he is taking the hit. Okay, but host side it's working fine. When host hits the peer, it is working fine, but whereas peer, he takes the hit. Let's fix that. So let's do one thing, let's add one more condition here. So when I click on the screen, he should not be playing the attack animation. Oh, I'm sorry, not here. Okay, here let's do the same with the player 2. Is not playing attack. Okay, let's see now. This one should work. Anyways, the host is working fine. now both have issues. Okay, that's okay. So the logic here is when I hit the player 2, the animation take it should not be playing. So when player 1 collision with player 2, okay, let's do one thing. Let's keep it to host. Let's remove this one. Oh no, wait. So player 1 once hit player 2, player 2 should take the hit, and when player 2 is collided with player 1, player 1 should take the hit. Okay, that is how it should be. Right, I think now I understood. Right, add one more condition. Player 1 should be playing, should be playing attack, and player 2 should be playing attack. Okay, let's see, this one should work. Right. Okay, let's test host now. Okay, host is working fine. PRS is also working fine, right? And once a peer hits host, he is stuck at the take hit animation. Same thing with peer. Peer is working fine. Okay, so I will fix that. it's very simple. You just need to copy these two. So on animation attack we set the animation to idle, right? Similarly, let's simply change it to take hit, or we can do one thing, we can make a OR block, add this one here, so that we don't need to increase the lines of code. So either if the player 1 takes plays animation of attack or take it, once it is done they will come back to the idle state. See, it should similarly with the player 2 as well. This one should be take it, done. Okay, so now we have completed the animations and hitting both the players, the multiplayer sync, everything, right? Everything is working perfectly. So now I want to add the scores. Okay, I'll create one more layer called HUD. So here I'll add a global variable called P1 health, copy paste, and P2 health. Okay, once we are so P1 health will record the health of player 1 and P2 health will record the health of player 2. So once we are done with either of the health, we want to go back to the home screen. We will be creating now in few minutes. So but once either of the health is over, I don't want any of the excuse me, so any of the events to be working. So even after game over, if I click on the screen, it will work as of now. So I want to see if the game is over, and I don't want any of the controls to be working. Give me a minute, I'll have water. Excuse me. Okay, in order to check that, we need to add one more global variable. Just copy paste this one and call game over, and let's make it boolean. So by default it will be false, but also I would like to add it in start, because once we come back to home, go to home and come back to game, I want the boolean to be false, and P1 health by default will be 100. P2 health also will be 100. Let's move it to the top. So this will be triggered, then the rest of the game will be triggered. Okay, till here everything is fine, everything is working fine. So I will create one more event to see if game is over or not. So if game is not over, okay, let's move all this event to it. Okay, so only if the game is not over, these functions will be working, right? Also, yeah, okay, now we need to update the health of both the players. So when player 1 hits player 2, the health should be updated accordingly. So we can have a common event set up, but I want to do it on both side, because we'll have proper sync on both the sides. So let one person update the health of both the players and send it to other player. That is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is having it in the common event, so that both will have sync and we don't need to send messages. But I'm thinking whether to set it on host or not, because if we set it on host, again we'll have to add these events under host and peer, so which will be a duplicate. But let's do one thing, let's add it in the common events, and if it is not syncing properly, then we can move it to host. Okay, so let's go to system and we'll need to subtract 20 from P1 health. Sorry, this should be P2 health. So add sub event. So we want to do that only if the health of P2 is greater than or equal to 20. Sorry, 20. So as this is a small game, so with this adding it in the common events would be sufficient. Initially I thought to add it to the host, but let's see if we have any issues, we can move it to host. Excuse me. Okay, done. So now I want to add progress bars to see the health of both the players. So if we have a plugin called progress bar, let's put it here. Let's put the width at 100 and height 5 would be sufficient. Okay, so let's add one more instant variable called player. Okay, so this is to recognize which bar belongs to which player. I'll call it as player 1. So it's for the first player, and let's copy and paste for the second one. Okay, this is for player 2. Okay, let's also add the names for the players. Let's add the text. Okay, so let's make it white. Let's make it bold. Size maybe 8. Okay, let's add the variable player. So this is also recognize which player this text box belong to, and this will be player 1. So let's copy paste. This will be player 2. So x7, this one okay, maybe 50. Okay, done. All right, so so initially the progress bar by default will be value of 0 and max will be 100. Similarly with the next progress bar. Okay, so the health is 100 So simply let's keep the progress bar. Okay, progress bar we need a separate event. Okay, so for progress bar, which is player of 1, okay, so the progress bar should be linked to the health. Set progress to P1 health. So once you decrease, once P1 health decrease by 20 points, the progress will also decrease by 20 points. Let's do the same for player 2. This one will be player 2 P2 health. Okay, let's add the names for the text. So in the host, let's go through text and instance variable player 1. So the text of player 1 will be set text to multiplayer dot my alias. Okay, so host will be my alias, and so the second text will be multiplayer dot peer alias. Okay, let's copy these two, paste it in peer side coding, and this one will be host alias, and this one will be my alias. Okay, till here it's clear, right? Let's test the game first and then we can implement the game over. Okay, you can see the progress bar. The first one is Sudeep, which is the name of the host, and like I said, the second person to join the name room, if he has the same name, it will call it as Sudeep 2. Okay, it's the because it's the duplication of name and to have the unique name. So later we will link it to the text box so that you will get the exact names. Okay, let's see how it is going now. So if I hit the peer, you see that progress bar is working fine. See, the problem is if you hit the peer, there is no sync here, because see the second progress bar, it decreased but the first one did not decrease. Okay, that's the issue. So that is why you need to maintain the health on the host side. You see that now the progress here is small. No, the points decreased here is lower compared to the peer side. So we want this to be sync, and that is why it is better to code it on the host and peer side. Alright, so okay, that's fine. It is better we code it on the host side and peer side. So let's copy this one, and that's okay. Even though there is a duplication, that's fine. This is just for demo purposes, and if you know in future, once you're done with the game, you can work on the optimization. So let's remove this one from here, and let's copy the collision check and paste it in the peer side. So let's remove the health part from here. Okay, so once if the health of P is greater than or equal to 20, subtract health from P, and similarly if the health of P2 is greater than or equal to 20, let's subtract health from P2. Okay, so once we subtracted, let's send the message. Okay, this is host because that is why we broadcast the message, and tag will be score. Okay, so health of P2 so the messages will not take int, so let's make it as string. Okay, so also let's move player to collision to host. Let's host control the both the players scores. Okay, so for this one let's broadcast score of P2. I'm sorry, not score, it's health. Okay, this is P1 health. Okay, so once player 1 hit player 2 hits player 1, 20 health of player 1 decreases by 20 points, and host broadcast player health P1 health to player 2. Similarly, if player 1 hits player 2 and host broadcast P2 health okay. Now we need to receive the messages from the host. Of course, we receive the message by default, but we need to catch them. So once the peer message, so the tag is P1 health. Okay, go to his system and set the P1 health value. So we are transferring the data as string. Now we need to change it back to integer, and it will be multiplayer dot message. Okay, let's copy paste this one and just rename the peer message P2 health, and this will be P2 health. Okay, so now we need to test the game or thing. So if the game is over or not. So let's, the logic here is if either of health 1 or health 2 is 0. So P1 health, let's move it to game over. Okay, either P1 health or P2 health is 0. So we need to take them to the home screen. So let's create a home layout, add layout. So we need an event sheet as well, so you can add an event sheet, home, and the event sheet will be underscore home. Same thing. Let's resize the viewport size to okay, done. So once the game is over, we'll have to take back the player to game's home screen. Okay, we can simply say that Once the either of the player's health is 0, you can simply go to lay at home. It's as simple as that. Let's add one more boolean called so let's call it as game over first, then go to the home screen. Okay. Excuse me, suddenly my throat is not good, so excuse me for coughing. Okay, either P1 or P2 is 0, we'll set the game over to true, then we'll take the player to the home screen, right? But it's not that simple because both the players are in room already. So first we need to move them out of the room and then disconnect from the signaling server and then move to the home screen. The reason is that if you go to the home screen directly and they will still be attached to the room, and if you want to play a new game, you cannot join any other room, even though the room is even though you're done with the room, you still be attached to that room and you cannot play any more games. So we don't want that to happen. So if either of health 1 or health 2 is over, first so if you remember, we joined the signaling room server, then we joined the room. So similarly, first we have to leave the room. Once you leave the room on left, you will have to disconnect from the signaling server. Okay. So once you disconnect from the signaling server, then you go to the home screen. So let's give a wait of 1 second. Okay, so here even either of player 1 or player 2 health is 0, first we will set the game out to true and we'll leave the room first, and once we left the room we'll go to the signaling server, and once you left the signaling server you go to the home screen. Okay, let's refresh the server and see how it works. Okay, host is ready, peer is also ready. Let's see now. Okay, you see now the progress bars are synced properly, we don't have any discrepancies. So if let's kill host. Okay, so on host side, on the left hand side, which is the host, peer hit the host and he left the screen and moved to the home screen, but on the peer side it did not happen. So the reason is, even though you say that you can leave the room, if the peer if the host leaves before peer, okay, so host is no more in the room, and if the host is no more in the room, there is no server or someone who can communicate with the peer. And if there is no one who can communicate with the peer, and peer will stay in the room and they do not know whether the game is over or not, right? So in order to avoid that, we have one more condition, or what you can say, condition called kicked. Okay, once the host leaves the room, all the peers or the peer will be kicked out of the room, which means that game is over. We can conclude it as game is over. So we'll say the peer to leave the room, and once they left the room they can go back to the home screen. Okay, so this is the side, host side. What happens if the host leaves? Even if I close the browser, this should work. But what happens if the peer leaves? So for that we have one more condition called on peer disconnected. So this is on the host side. Okay, we'll leave the room. Okay, unkicked is for the peer and on peer disconnected is for the host. Either of them should leave the room, and eventually they have to leave this disconnect from signaling to server and go to the home screen. Okay, I hope it's not confusing. Okay, let's see. Okay, host is ready. So almost done, guys. We're almost done. We just need to add the personal aliases. So apart from that, everything is done. We just need to set up the home screen. Okay, so progress bar is working fine. So host is destroyed. Peer is still stuck in the home screen, I mean in the game screen. What might be the issue? Okay, once they are kicked out of the room, they already left the room. So what am I thinking? Okay, so on peer kicked, so once the host left the room, all the peers will be kicked out of the room. So once they were kicked, they just need to be disconnected from the server and go to the home screen. Okay, so let's work on the home screen before we test that, so that we can save some time. So I want to have the background of home to be same as the background of game. So I'll name the layer as BG. I'll go to the game. Simply I'll just make BG as global. Okay, you will see the home screen has the same background now. Okay, it's as simple as that. I'll add one more layer here. I'll call it as HUD. Add the text. Let's align it to center, vertical alignment center, origin will be center, and the text is multi-fight. Okay, I am placing it randomly. And we need a text box. So this is where it will take the input. Let's have the placeholder as your name. And also we need a button. So once the user clicks the button, it should take the name and go to the game screen. Let's call it as play. Okay, good. So let's add the events in the home screen. So if I click on the button, if button is clicked, so we need to check whether the text box is not empty. So that means they have entered some name, and compare text. text is not empty. Okay, and also let's add a global variable called name, and this will be string. Set value of name to the text input of text and go to the game. Okay, so I hope you understood it. I'll explain it to you again. So once the user opens the game, they will get this screen and they'll enter the name and click on play. And if the text box is not empty, that which means they have entered some name, it will have to take them to the game. So this is for only for validation. So also the name of the text, the name of the player will be added to the string called name. So whichever name they entered in the text box, the name, the text in the text box will be added to the name global string, and this name will be used to log in. So once we connected to Signal server, yeah, log in with alias name, and also the first event should be game. Okay, so let's try it again. I think once we make the changes with the system settings, I think we need to restart the server, but let's see. Okay, yeah, like I said, we need to restart the server. Let's close this and again open a new one. Copy this one, minimize it, go back to the, okay, 1 second. Alright, so I replaced the old remote link with the new one, so it has to start the game from the home page. Okay, now you can see we have the home screen. So let's add my name. So this should take me to the home, right, Sudeep, and this one will be the second name. Okay, you see that? So the first one, the host is Sudeep and the peer is Hunduti. So let's see how the game works now. Okay, so fine, everything is working fine. Perfect. You see that both of them have exited the screen and went back to the home screen. Alright, so yeah, this is about the game. And yeah, I think I need to show you one more thing. So what happens if player or if peer or host leaves the game? So anyways, the second one, the first one, which is on the left hand side, which is the host, has left the game and peer was moved to the home screen. So what happens if the peer exits? So let's test that as well, so that you will know that we have already coded for that as well. Generally a few players has the tendency to close the game if they are losing, right? So for that we need to catch those kind of errors as well. So if the player closes the window, host should be taken back to the home screen. So I close the peer window, host is taken back to the home screen, right? So everything is working fine. So we have completed this game. So I'll just quickly recap everything which we discussed. Alright, so you can skip this part if you are not interested, and you can reach out to me in Discord server if you have any questions, and if you have many more, if you have any other questions, or you want me to develop any other tutorials or multiplayer games, I can develop that for you. So the source code for this project is in the description and also in the comment. You can grab it from there. Alright, also you can go to my each page which I provide in the link and check out my other projects as well. And if you like this video, you can like it and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel, so that it will encourage me to create more videos. Alright, so let's quickly recap what we have done. So I'll come from the home screen. Okay, so home screen has the name and play button. So once you add your name and play, so the script or the events will validate whether you added your text in the text box, and adds the name text to the global name string, and you will be taken to the game screen. And here it will check whether it will set the game over variable to false, and player 1 and player 2 health will be 100, and your player 1 and player 2 will be synced to multiplayer, and you will connect to the signaling server. So once that is done, you will be logged in as with your name, and you can, once you logged in, you will be joining the room, and once you join the room, you will either join as host or peer. So we have created separate events for host and separate events for peer, and also we have created common events for both. So common events include taking hit and playing the animation for hit, moving the player 20 steps ahead or behind, right? And also the progress bar for both the players based on the health. And once either of the players health is 0, you will be leaving the room and leaving the signaling server, and then go back to the home screen. Right, so it's pretty much it. I hope it's very clear to you. It's not too much of confusing. For me, the multiplayer games in Scirra constructively are very easy. I hope it's the same with you after watching this video. Okay then, we'll see you again in the next video. Until then, you take care. Bye bye. See you.